All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you all. Thank you. Friday the 13th. My favorite recorded audience. It's a pleasure to have you all here. We have Michael Shure and Mo Kelly, hour two, to weigh in on what's happening. The administration leaning into the apparent success. Things are going swimmingly. There's nothing happening that we didn't know was going to happen. It's that kind of day, my friends. We'll share with you a little bit of Pete Hegseth, who is briefing the media while he's slapping the media around today. General Kane was part of that. He's a little bit more straightforward. Pete, of course, comes in angry and ready for revenge. So we'll play anyway some of that. Also, Donald Trump calls for a doctor in the House. We'll get to that story as well, as Donald Trump seems to have on the one hand, received $65 million in donations, and somehow the donation pipeline has evaporated to the point that no one can track this money, and Congress would like some answers. It's always interesting when our Congress wants answers about anything, given the issues that we face. Kim's here, of course.
Kim, how are you?
So is Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Normally this would be an Albert day, I guess, but Tony is filling in for Albert. Excuse me while I take a glass of water.
Albert is traveling and sent us this picture of a giant pile of alligator heads. Yikes.
Yeah, he wanted to send us something that was kind of on brand for
Friday Fabulous
Florida, which we'll also have going today. Yeah, try to give the kids what they want, What to do, where to start, I will quickly mention. So appreciative when you support our sponsors. And indeed, when you are happy with our sponsors, I've
received a lot of positive letters.
I did get this. Hey, Mark, excuse me for clear my throat.
This is about cupcakes. And I want to tell you that I had a 20-minute long texting session with Noe yesterday, who ordered from sweet106bakery.com, talking about she will order all the cupcakes from Christy because Christy is so nice. There's a lot of positive feedback from your interview yesterday with Christy.
Well, Christy is not only nice, but she won Cupcake Wars twice, and the product is insane. If she were just nice, then you wouldn't get the repeat businesses but you're so wonderful to point out that Noe got that she was nice, because she is a sort of transcendentally sweet person. And so you have sweet on sweet. Hey, Mark, the note writes, just a quick note to give you a shout out to Sweet 106 Bakery. I haven't tried them yet for myself, but wanted a special treat for a family member's birthday. With so many rave reviews from you and your team and the Remarkables, I figured Sweet 106 was a good bet. My family member received the delivery today, gave an instant big thumbs up. She said it made her day. Thanks for the great tip, and now it's time to order for myself. It was cool to hear you and Courtney talk with Christy on today's show. Here's to her continued success. Susie in Novato, California, just north of San Francisco. Very, very cool. I'm delighted that you're delighted. If you want to be part of that, you can order for yourself, sweet106bakery.com. Use our discount code MARKT. You'll get 15% off. And the offerings are amazing. So you'll be very, very happy. And maybe you'll write an email also. That would be nice.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'd love to hear from you. I did get this email too, but this is related to the war. And
I've received a lot of positive letters.
This is from Carolyn. She said, I read that the Iran war has cost $5.6 billion during the first 2 days, with an extra $1 billion a day thereafter. The estimates coming out of the Pentagon seem to concentrate on the cost of munitions. That doesn't include the cost of deployment or logistics or medical expenses, etc. We already have at least 16 injured service personnel moved to a military hospital in Germany. That couldn't have been cheap. Then today it was announced that it looked like two C-135 refueling tanker aircraft were hitting one another over Iraq. One of the aircraft was lost to the tune of about $79 million to replace it. We don't know the status of those on board. The other plane managed to get back to Kuwait, but I'm sure it's going to be out of commission while repairs are made. At what cost, we don't know. And just I'll step out of this email and ask, Kim, everyone was lost on board the tanker that went down. Isn't that right? Kim? No?
I don't know the answer. My apologies. I'll find it.
Maybe look. So on day 13 of the war, this debacle has cost us at least $16.6 billion, they go on, plus $79 million. Trump never replenished our oil reserves, which we used during the pandemic and which is down to 58%. He's going to use 172 million barrels to soften the blow. And did you hear the orange one says it's actually good that the price of oil is up? We talked about that yesterday because we supply more than any other country, so the suppliers make the money, and they're American companies. So you've said a lot here, and let me just speak to it quickly. Carolyn, thank you so much for the email. As I said, all the crew members on that KC-135 crash in Iraq are confirmed dead. Yeah.
Correct.
The cost of the war is incalculable for many reasons. You can calculate the loss associated with munitions. Of course, the incalculable loss is the loss of life, which you referenced in your email. And then what's happening to the world economy and the American economy as a result goes into any calculation that you figure for the cost of war. So even as we talk about specific price tags assigned to various, as I say, munitions, aircraft, this sort of thing, you see it really as only one element in the continued series of elements that go into the arithmetic of war. The other thing, independent completely of the money, is the foolhardy nature of this endeavor. Poorly planned, if it was planned at all. I mean, it seems to me so haphazardly planned. I'll play you a bunch of stuff today, and you'll kind of even see in the way they're, I mean, I get it. They're all bravado. You know, they're all frat boy muscularity. But that covers what is a gang that has no idea what they're doing. The military is a well-oiled machine, as I've said before, but they only do what they're directed to do, and a strategy and blueprint has to be laid out ahead of time that makes sense. And we simply haven't done that. They clearly didn't think ahead on the Strait of Hormuz. They didn't think about all the ways in which the Iranians can repel the Americans and, in fact, get them into a grappling match that renders your bombing campaign irrelevant. Look at all the missiles that have hobbled many of the American military bases in the region. Look at all the missiles that have hobbled American and international shipping in the region. I mean, at minimum, the Strait of Hormuz should have been a centerpiece of any strategy you put forward, and it wasn't, clearly. They've been able to successfully mine the Strait of Hormuz. They have missiles that can fire at the Strait of Hormuz. It means nothing that you took out their Navy on some level. They can fire these missiles, and we've talked about it before. That's only one layer. They can also fire drones at any ships going through the strait. In both cases, the American military and this poorly thought-out strategy on the part of Hegseth and the rest of them hasn't really accounted for it in any way that's mattered. The Straits of Hormuz essentially closed. Hegseth addressed the media today and spoke about this in Cut 10. Give me this Cut 10 as Hegseth spoke to the media and slapped the media around. I'll play that part for you as well. But he spoke about the Strait of Hormuz, and even in his full-throatedness about how they've thought about this, and believe me, we've thought about the Strait of Hormuz. Really? Well, why is it closed then? Go ahead.
Alexandra Ingersoll, One America News. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Strait of Hormuz and when it might be fully operational again? And how do we ensure our objective of denying Iran a nuclear weapon if they continue to align with our adversaries?
So I'll take it and chime in, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like it all. I want to emphasize what the chairman said about that. The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that. Now, there's a reason why we chose as one of our primary objectives destroy the Navy. We understood the ability to interdict shipping is something Iran has done for 40 years. It's key terrain. They've used it as leverage. The world is seeing what they'll do to fight back in that context. And so we've heard them talk about taking various measures, and we're planning for all of them. So we have a plan for every option here. We're working with our interagency partners, and that's not a strait we're going to allow to remain contested or with a lack of flow of commercial goods. So we're aware of that. We're laser focused on our military objectives, but also want to make sure our partners across this government understand we're working with you to make sure that energy flows. And that's an important part. And the second question was on the nuclear capability. As we've said from the beginning, their strategy shifted just from defense of their nuclear facilities to a conventional umbrella of so many missiles that no one would challenge their ability to the opportunity to defeat their nuclear capabilities. And it was growing by the day. So with Iran at its weakest moment, going at that ballistic missile capability creates an opportunity to ensure at any point in time that Iran give up their nuclear capabilities, or if need be, you prevent them from doing it, as the president has done once already with Operation Midnight Hammer, obliterating those capabilities. So the conventional side is a huge part at getting at denying nuclear capabilities, if you have anything you want to add.
Appreciate the question. I'm not going to comment on what we may or may not be thinking about any options that the Joint Force could be tasked to do in the future, whether it's on the nuke matter or anything else. Thank you.
But we have options.
So what you got there was really a disconnection from reality. You know, saying that the Strait of Hormuz has been the focus of their attention. They've accounted for it. Even the attention paid to the nuclear stores in Iran. These are all things that they're essentially BSing their way through. There's no indication that the problems with the Strait of Hormuz are in any way being addressed in any substantive way by any policy on the part of the Americans. There's talk originally from Trump that shipping would be accompanied by American protection, and that was kind of drawn back. We talked about it yesterday. The backstopping of insurance companies was talked about because the cost of insurance now for even passing through the strait has now become astronomically high. And now that's been pulled back as well. So I think the realities around the strait are pretty grim. And I think the realities around the strait are setting in on this crew. They're telling a story of total destruction of this Iranian regime and of the structure in Iran, but there's no sign that the regime is melting away in the least. In fact, they seem to have both control over government, over the people, and over the military. So I'm not suggesting that, you know, if you bomb the crap out of Iran for day after day, you can't make some gains militarily. But I don't know that you're actually achieving the goals that you really wanted. Here's Besant. Play me cut 2. This is sort of an odd thing. I'll play a couple of things on, and then more of Hegseth. Besant was called into the Situation Room suddenly in the middle of an interview. And it's just an odd moment. He comes back and he does appear a bit shaken. I'll let you decide, but here is that moment. He was sitting down with European television. It's
Oh, okay.
The president wants
Okay.
you.
No problem at all.
You take his mic off.
See you shortly, Mr. Secretary.
Walks out.
Mr. Secretary, I have to say, it's a first, I'm sure a last as well, that an interviewee's been pulled away to go to the Situation Room. How was the president? Was he stressed?
No, the president is in great spirits. The Iranian mission is proceeding well ahead of schedule, and I have to tell you, Wolf, that I have a teenager who's considering military service, and I could give this team my highest compliment, from President Trump to the head of the Joint Chiefs to the Secretary of War. I would say that I would trust my child's life in their hands.
Well, that is always the word from Besant. Everything is blue skies and sunshine, and President Trump and Pete Hegseth are the leaders I'd follow into battle, and I'd let my son follow into battle. Fortunately, my son isn't of follow into battle age, so I'm okay that way. General Kane joined Pete Hegseth, and the sobriety that you get from General Kane is a real contrast to Hegseth. I'll play Hegseth first, and then I'll get to General Kane, Tony. So cut one is Pete Hegseth this morning, briefing the media.
Actually.
Go ahead.
But there was no voice and there was no video. It was a written statement. He called for unity.
Can you continue or no? So this is Pete Hegseth talking about all of the victories that America has achieved in the first days of the war. Go ahead.
More. That's the most important component I'd like to emphasize today. Soon and very soon, all of Iran's defense companies will be destroyed. For example, as of 2 days ago, Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity, every company that builds every component of those missiles, has been functionally defeated, destroyed. Buildings, complexes, and factory lines all across Iran destroyed. So we're shooting down and destroying what missiles they still have in stock, but more importantly, ensuring that they have no ability to make more. Their production lines, their military plants, their defense innovation centers, defeated. Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do. We know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. He put out a statement yesterday, a weak one, actually, but there was no voice and there was no video. It was a written statement. He called for unity. Apparently killing tens of thousands of protesters is his kind of unity. Iran has plenty of cameras and plenty of voice recorders. Why a written statement?
Yeah, so this is his suggestion that the supreme leader, the new supreme leader, is not in any shape to address the media publicly. Go ahead, Tony.
I think you know why. His father, dead. He's scared, he's injured, he's on the run, and he lacks legitimacy. It's a mess for them. Who's in charge? Iran may not even know. With every passing hour, we know, and we know they know, that the military capabilities of their evil regime are crumbling. They can barely communicate, let alone coordinate. They're confused, and we know it. Our response? We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy for our enemies. Yet some in this crew, in the press, just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. I used to be in that business. And I know that everything is written intentionally. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen the last couple of days, alongside visuals of civilian or energy targets that Iran has hit, because that's what they do. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Because they are. They know it, and so do you, if it can be admitted. Or more fake news from CNN. reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better. Another example of a fake headline that I saw yesterday, war widening. Here's a real headline for you for an actual patriotic press. How about Iran shrinking, going underground? You see, Iran's leaders are hiding in bunkers and moving into civilian areas. The only thing that is widening is our advantage. Not to mention our Gulf partners stepping up even more, now going on the offense, and have always been with us on the defense with collective and integrated air defenses.
All right. Thank you for that. It was a slapping around the media, playing the media narrative. It is clear that this former Fox News co-host on the weekend, who now runs the American military, is consumed by the way the narrative is being played in the media. I mean, you can tell me you're so busy at the Department of War that you don't have time to take in the media. That might be the thing you should say. But you're obsessed with the media. You're changing media banners on CNN and on various networks that you're not happy with. It's just a sign this guy is so paper thin. But were he consumed with all that and also competent in pursuing this military operation, maybe it would be tolerable. But he's an utter incompetent with an incompetent president who heads it up, who doesn't have an idea as to what he really wants. One day it's the nuclear, next day it's the protests and replacing the regime to try to protect the people of Iran who are protesting. It's an utterly shifting goal, and it reflects what I think is a total, he's been subsumed by Israel. He's been taken over by the Israeli lobbying associated with going to war in Iran. Trump, they finally got their guy. Trump, who doesn't really know anything about anything and is a pal of Netanyahu, was able to actually hitch our wagons to that incredibly poorly thought out plan of going into Iran with air power, and let's hope not with actual boots on the ground, to use the phrase that's often used. It is a serious threat at this point, because I think this is going to work toward a stalemate. I'm also wondering if Trump really just won't declare victory. And, this is the kind of thing they're doing. They're panicked. They didn't think of what the Iranians could reasonably do. They didn't think of the way in which the Iranians can completely hold up tanker traffic in the Strait. There are conflicting messages from the administration. We'll escort you, and then we won't escort you. Or they just pull down the social media post that says we will escort you. And in that spirit, they are on television at every friendly network outpost they can find, talking about how great things are going. Here is Stephen Miller, cut 5, doing damage control on Fox News.
Tell us about the progress of Operation Epic Fury.
Well, I think it's important for your viewers, Jesse, and the American people to know that there's never in history been a more total asymmetric, one-sided annihilation of the enemy than you are witnessing that is unfolding right now in Iran. Iran has long been feared by all the nations of the Middle East. It's long been believed to be one of the great military powers of the region, and yet the United States, under President Trump's leadership, has annihilated their navy, has annihilated their missile capabilities, has dealt devastating strikes to the IRGC and their command structure, has taken out, in collaboration and coordination with Israel, their nation's sinister leadership and command structure. It has been a complete wipeout of their capacity to unleash violence on the world. And we are in the process right now of degrading their entire military industrial base so that they cannot resume creating and building these weapons that not only could reach Europe, that not only can reach our military bases, but that someday could reach the mainland United States. So this has been, by every definition, an unprecedented military success against a regime that since 1979 has exported nothing but bloodshed and violence and claimed countless American lives.
Where does the administration stand on the objective of regime collapse? And are they satisfied with the current quote-unquote leadership, Ayatollah Jr.? I mean, we don't even really know if he's alive.
It's important to understand that, again, the leadership class of this evil regime has been wiped out. Nobody has seen the Ayatollah Jr. Nobody has seen proof of life. He didn't show his face on a TV camera. All we have is a statement that is purported to belong to him, as a symbol and a signal of how degraded this regime is. And again, we are talking about how in a matter of days, a regime that has terrorized and menaced the world, that has used missiles to blackmail the world, has been degraded and has been set back to a degree that few thought possible. Ship after ship sunk, launcher after launcher destroyed, outpost after outpost, command center after command center taken off the map. So this has been a huge success for America, but the president is continuing to move forward to further annihilate, obliterate, and destroy the regime's capacity to threaten American interests around the world.
Well, the reality, of course, in the Strait of Hormuz is that it is closed, and the interests of the world are very well served by the opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the passage of oil. The reality is a grim one. Even a short interruption in that oil flow affects the world markets dramatically. I mean, oil's over $100 a barrel right now as we're talking, and it is likely going to head higher. The reason for that is there is no end to this blockage of the strait. The strait is mined. I've mentioned the threat of both drones and missiles, and for all of the full-throatedness that Stephen Miller has as he tries to cover what's actually happening, the Iranian capability to take out these tanker ships, they've shown. They've hit tanker ships already. That was a warning. And the companies that run these tanker ships and insure these tanker ships are closing down any intent to pass through the strait. The strait is effectively closed. This was, you're seeing it now, a warning. And it's a serious threat that I don't believe this administration accounted for. So you can tell me how you've degraded their command and control, and we've taken out the leader, no one's seen him. The reality is the superstructure of an Iranian defense has been built over years. They've been anticipating this, and they are fighting for their lives as a state. For that reason, we're in a grappling match. We are in a grappling match, and that's the kind of thing that will be very effective. I'm leaving out the nuclear fissile material that seems to be something that the Americans desperately want, and I think legitimately want. I mean, if you've gone this far, you should actually defang the nuclear threat. But to do that, you're going to need special forces supported by conventional forces, supported by air. It's going to be a huge operation. The Iranians know you want that as well. And it's not just in one place. And so you need American intelligence that is appropriate to that job, that is to say, identifying where those materials are, and then you'll need the appropriate forces involved in such a mission, and that's going to be a messy operation. So once again, Trump, on the crack high from Venezuela, from the successes he seemed to feel militarily, thought somehow he could go into Iran at the suggestion of Netanyahu and do something. I don't even know what, and I don't know that he knows what. But he thought it could help his poll numbers, distract from Epstein. I don't know what. But it is a mess. And the world economy is going to show it more and more dramatically. And by the way, referenced in Stephen Miller was the way in which the partners have come to our aid and are anxiously joining the effort. I'll talk about that in a moment. Here is Donald Trump's post on screen. He says, "We are totally destroying the terrorist regime of Iran militarily, economically, and otherwise. Yet if you read the failing New York Times, you would incorrectly think that we are not winning. Iran's navy is gone, their air force is no longer, missiles, drones, and everything else are being decimated, and their leaders have been wiped from the face of the earth. We have unparalleled firepower, unlimited ammunition, plenty of time. Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. They've been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years, and now I, as the 47th President of the United States of America, am killing them. What a great honor to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Trump." I mean, these are the ravings of a Baghdad Bob type person who just wants to get propaganda out there. I mean, these aren't responsible messages and postings. They're just clearly propaganda. We see what's happening on the ground. We see how much progress is being made. I mean, they're releasing these snuff videos of various targets being hit, and I guess that's supposed to be rah-rah. But what you're not hearing is there are many targets being hit on the outside. Iran has been effective with their missile capacity, and a lot of their long-range missile capacity they still haven't tapped. I think the Israelis may endure great damage, and there's a blanket of censorship over Israeli media right now. You don't hear a lot about that. The war is not going well, and what I was saying before, because it was noted by Stephen Miller, is that somehow all these regional partners, the Gulf partners, are joining the effort against Iran. And I do think, to be fair, that the Saudis very much wanted this to happen. And it's conceivable that other Gulf partners were on board as well. But the idea that they now, after having made something of a defense pact agreement with the Americans for protection, have endured incoming Iranian missiles, all of a sudden I think that that defense pact is being rethought. But here we go. This is from Reuters. Regional sources and analysts in the Arabian Gulf say there's a sense that they are ultimately paying the price for Trump's Iran war, as airports, hotels, ports, and oil facilities in the area are being hit by Iranian drones in a conflict they didn't start and weren't consulted on. In other words, the Gulf states are paying the price for this war of choice that Trump decided to initiate, along with Israel. Quote, "It is not our war. We did not want this conflict, yet we are paying the price in our security and our economy." That from the president of the Emirates Policy Center. That same person, that same president, it's Ebtassim al-Ketbi. Ketbi also worrying that Trump, having embroiled the region in chaos and inflamed Iran, might lose focus as the costs grow. Quote, "If America leaves the war now without achieving victory, it will be like abandoning an injured lion. Iran will remain a threat to the region, capable of striking again, and if the regime collapses, leaving a power vacuum, neighboring states will suffer the consequences." It is not going well. It is not going well. Meanwhile, a quick note. Donald Trump, who talks about popularity, Donald Trump, who watches the media and how the various narratives are playing out in the media, he is looking at dismal poll numbers. Give me cut 4, if you would, please, Tony.
Love. Underwater overall, but really bad with one voting group.
Yeah, really bad with one voting group. John, you know, we have spoken about this independence, independence, independence. The center of the electorate. We have been talking about how Trump has been just downright awful with them. And I decided we're going to look back and compare it to other presidents this century at this point in their second term, compare it to George Bush, compare it to Barack Obama, and look at that. 38 points underwater at this point. That is worse than Obama by 20 points. That is worse than George W. Bush by double digits. And of course, George W. Bush's second term went way off
Katrina, Iraq, ultimately the Great Recession as well. So that is not a comparison.
No, you don't like that.
Why? I mean, what don't independents like?
What don't independents like? What don't the overall electorate like? Are you focusing on the right issues? Are you focusing on what people actually care about? And if you look right now, you look at a Fox News poll that recently came out. Look at this. Say the Trump admin is focused on the wrong things. 60% overall say that the Trump administration is focused on the wrong things. Look at that. 78% of independents say that the Trump administration is focused on the wrong things. I mean, how does that work? How does that work politically, John? I don't understand how that works, especially if those numbers hold to the midterm elections. That's a big freaking problem.
Well, it may not be working as you look forward to the midterm elections. So how have predictions changed about whether or not Democrats can take back Congress?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, look, we've been talking about the House, and pretty much every historical market, all the prediction markets, all the polling indicates that the Democrats are in the catbird seat when it comes back to taking back the House. But how about combining it with the United States Senate? That is taking back the whole enchilada, taking back all of Congress. And what we see is the Democrats' chance of doing that has been rising, rising, rising on a stairway to heaven, my dear friend. And what we see there is that Democrats at this particular point have been increasing those odds. It's not yet at 50%, but it is clearly rising. And that is something that I think is quite shocking, because a lot of folks like myself thought the Democrats would take back the House. But the idea of taking back the Senate as well, that is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot there. And it's interesting to note that, you know, neither party is popular. If you poll on the popularity of the Democrats, just the Democratic Party in general, it's dismal. I think I showed that to you last week. I want to say like 28%, something super low. But the Republican Party, GOP, polls very low as well. So you end up with this hold your nose and vote kind of situation in America right now. And after people hold their noses and vote, it may be that there'll be a surge from independents who don't feel allegiance to either party, but really are over the GOP agenda. So we'll watch that. I'd say on the at the very least, if the election goes down and it's kosher, it would appear that the Democrats are poised to retake the House. And I think it's a big if. I think this election is an existential threat to Trump on some level. He sees it that way. He sees investigations. He sees maybe even an impeachment proceeding. Things can get very complicated for Donald Trump very quickly if and when the GOP lose control of the House. And I think he'll do a lot to prevent that. I'm talking about everything from voter suppression, which has been a key centerpiece of his strategy moving forward, to even putting ICE, putting military, putting various, I'll just say, scare tactic troops of one sort or another in position to somehow suppress the vote. I mean, I know martial law has been talked about. Maybe he'll do that as well. But he definitely fears this midterm election, and so it's possible that there'll be every manner of messing with it from the White House. Elections were so 20th century, says Mike and Willow Glen. Thanks for the comment. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I will read a couple of your comments.
Your comments.
Chaplain Fred for a $5 super chat says, when someone says the president is in good spirits, it means he is not good. Why even mention it? The U.S. is not doing well against Iran. Yeah. I sadly agree. I think it's all bad. Sorry, I'm confused. Who has the weekend custody of the child, Putin or Netanyahu? Jim Slayton, that's a great comment with a $10 super chat. Thanks so much for that, Jim.
Big shout out.
Jim's an OG of the show. Glenn B., Dad, a World War II vet. Glad he isn't alive to see this. Yeah. I mean, World War II was it was a righteous battle against totalitarianism and the Nazi Reich, which dominated with a brutality and with a horror that, the modern world has not seen. But I think the strategies imposed largely in world. I'm not a student of war particularly, but it just feels as though there were sound practices militarily that we're not seeing anymore. I think you have guys who are sort of drunk on power making decisions, and that's scary. You don't have people who are sound decision makers because, as you know, General Kane, who was taken out of retirement. You remember what happened, how General Kane got his job? Kim, you can Google it. General Kane got his job coming out of retirement. He was a 3-star general. And Trump said, if you'll come on board, I'll make you a 4-star general. And Trump got rid of he moved somebody out to move him in. But in any case, the important point here is that Kane's actually been fairly sound in the job, and he recommended against it. He recommended against Iran and against Iran incursion, and he even let that leak. You don't let it leak unless you're really worried it might happen, unless you really want to get the word out that this is a bad idea. So Raisin Kane, who is his guy, thought this was a bad idea. In fact, I have General Kane, I think, today. He was pretty sober. He's not about the, busting on the media, talking about how we're kicking ass. Let me tell you, nothing to worry about. Let me tell you who's got something to worry about. They do. The enemy does. Yeah, there it is. Trump's top general desperately trying to warn against war with Iran. That was the word. General Dan Kane has warned that a war with Iran could deplete the power of the United States military. That was something he said before the war. So that's how desperate he was to get the word out. And Congress was like, right this way, Mr. President, with your war. Very little pushback on this president when it came to the war. Are ICE escapades invisible now because of the war? Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Richard Delamater, and you're right. With a $2 super chat.
Big shout out.
The situation with ICE and what's happening in the ICE detention centers is implausibly awful. It's just it's horrible. I mean, I've read a bunch of stuff and I've actually put it in the rundown. It's like been on the agenda to talk about it. But they're getting 911 calls from inside ICE centers. People are dying in these detention centers. These are massive facilities, as you know. They're acquiring more and more of them, these huge warehouse spaces. And the other thing that's happening in the acquisition of these warehouse spaces is they're overpaying for warehouse space, not by a little bit, not by even twice, by 5x. Something is $28 million in a warehouse space. They pay $150 million. And when I say they, I'm talking about you and me, government money, taxpayer money. They buy the warehouse for $150 million. It's only valued and appraised at $28 million. Why would that be? Oh, it turns out that the owner of that space is a Russian oligarch. There's a whole other plot line that's being followed in the acquisition of these detention centers. And then once they get the detention center up and running, these are privately run. They're economically incentivized to keep heads in there, right? The more people you have in there, the more money you make. And I'm telling you, the conditions are deplorable. So thank you for reminding us that that's going on also. So I also have one other story I wanted to share.
The Mark Thompson Show.
There is a congressional treasure hunt going on. Yeah, there's a treasure hunt for missing money.
What?
The missing millions that were directed to Donald Trump and his planned presidential library. The presidential library, as you know, became sort of the place where a lot of the funds associated with the shakedown of law firms and media institutions, where that money all ended up. So the money, millions of dollars, meant to go to the planned Donald Trump presidential library. But then there was a sudden decision made to dissolve that presidential library fund.
I've never seen anything like it.
Democratic Senators Elizabeth Warren and Richard Blumenthal, along with New Mexico Representative Melanie Stansbury, have written to those who sent money, who were shaken down in effect, right? ABC, Meta, Paramount, X. These are all organizations that contributed money or were shaken down and forced to contribute money. The writing, the letters, the emails, the inquiries written to those places ask about the money that they pledged to give Trump's library project after they settled their high-profile legal disputes with the president. The cases were settled for around $63 million total. The companies agreed to direct millions of those funds toward building Trump's proposed library in Miami. But the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library Fund, which was initially said to receive at least some of the settlement money, was dissolved last fall after failing to submit a mandatory annual report. The attorney who signed the fund's registration paperwork and filed to have it dissolved, a guy named Jacob Roth, worked at the time at the Dillon Law Group. That law firm was founded by Harmeet Dillon, Trump's assistant attorney general for civil rights. It's all in the family. A second nonprofit, the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library Foundation, Inc., was then established and reported in December 2025, and it said that it had received $50 million, though it's not confirmed whether that total includes the settlement funds or not. Now it's unclear where this money has gone, and there are concerns that corruption was apparent at the time of the settlement. That was all included in the lawmakers' writing. Trump sued ABC, of course, for defamation after that George Stephanopoulos thing. And Trump also filed claims against social media companies X and Meta after Facebook and Instagram and Twitter accounts were suspended in the wake of the January 6th Capitol attack. And all the settlements were, viewed as bending the knee to Trump, right? Federal laws do not require nonprofits created to build presidential libraries to disclose their donors. Critics have said that because of that, the lack of transparency could provide a backdoor for wealthy individuals or corporations to curry favor with the president through large donations without public disclosure. Not that that would ever happen with this president or this administration. It remains unclear what Trump's proposed library will look like if it is ultimately built at all. One concept involves making the library an interior feature of a 47-story skyscraper in Miami, a not too subtle nod to Trump being the 47th president. Trump has also considered placing the $400 million luxury jet gifted to him by Qatar on display as a centerpiece exhibit to help make the library a major tourist draw. No comment from ABC, Meta, Paramount, or the Trump Library Foundation. And now you know the rest of the story.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, I would be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge that on this Friday, many of you have joined in. Thank you for being here. We're a live show, and there is important news. You who watch the show live, most of you don't watch the show live. I can understand that, how you wouldn't. Because when you don't watch it live, you can skip over stuff like this, right? Right. Luis with a $5 super chat. What's up, Luis? Luis is an OG of the show.
Big shout out.
For those of you who voted for this crap show, how is the price of eggs treating you? What about gas? Building materials? Nice job, MAGA America. Hashtag idiots. Well, it's a brand that they felt something for, and there's a real threat to a lot of stuff that we value, like a stable economy, stable political system. There's a reason that investors come from all over the world and come to America, because we have just that, a stability that they can count on. And that's threatened. The world economy is threatened right now. So what has the Board of Peace been doing lately? Yeah, not really. They're busy right now. They're busy. Did I play the General Kane cut? I'll play it in the next hour. Okay, I'll play it in the next hour. I'll play some more Hegseth and General Kane in the next hour. Also, let me take a moment to recognize our dear friends at Coachella Valley Coffee. I have to tell you something. I saw their exhibit there. I'm drinking it now. It's so very delicious. I saw their setup at BNP at the tennis center. Their social media just had some pictures of it. It looks really great. And I was down there last year, and there's a line for their stuff out the door and down the way. It's really impressive how well they've done. This is a small business. There is the social media posting from these guys, and they're just so great. These are the Coachella Valley Coffee people as they're walking the tennis center. I mean, they hire all these additional baristas and all this stuff for, their presence there. And CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, they take such pride in, there it is, you can see it in the background, a little bit of it anyway, some of the signage. They take such pride in their coffee and their tea and their spices. Check them out, and I think you'll agree, some of the best coffee you've ever tasted. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, it's all hand-roasted. It's a boutique roastery, all organic and ethically sourced from women-owned farms all around the world. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. There they are at the setup at the tennis center in the desert right now. Yeah. It's a great tournament, and they have a great presence there. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. When you check out, use our discount code MarkT. You'll get 10% off. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. 10% off at checkout. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thank you for smashing the like button. That helps us, I guess, in the world of YouTube. It's what we do. It's what we ask.
Smash
it's what we,
it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Absolutely. Their chicken seasoning is lovely, says Ms. Organic about Coachella Valley Coffee and their spices. Coachella Valley must be hot as H right now. Yeah, it's really hot in Southern California. So true. Thank you, Sandham. Yeah. So true. A lot of people have jumped on the Coachella Valley coffee train. What country is going to come and liberate us from our corrupt regime, says Ren. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really is. America ain't the America of just a few years ago, But I think trying to figure what might be the next steps from this president, it's hard. I'll play for you in a moment or two Trump calling in to Fox News. And during the call, he sort of reveals that trying to guess his next move might be impossible. Again, I'll get to that in a moment. I want to, right now, welcome a guy who has some of the cleanest, most horrific takes in all the world. He is the brilliant Mo Kelly, everybody. Mo Kelly.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Way too nice, way untrue.
Mo Kelly is wonderful. You know, I occasionally, when Mo fills in on this show, I'll get a chance to listen to some of it. And I'm thinking, that's exactly what I would have said. That's maybe why I like Mo Kelly so much. So, but you say it with a charm and grace that I oftentimes don't have. So it's really cool to have you here. All right. Hopefully Michael Shure will be along. So, Mo, state of the state on the war, please.
I have never been more fearful, and that's a word that I don't use lightly. I've never been more fearful for this country than right now. The only time which would even come close to it would be during COVID, because we didn't know what was going to happen, how it was going to evolve, or what the then president at the time, Donald Trump, was going to do. But at least you could say during COVID that it was not a crisis of the making of the president, of the president's making. Now, he may have exacerbated it. He may have made it worse, but he didn't create it. This is something completely different. No one can claim responsibility for this war other than Donald Trump. Nobody. And all the deaths which will come out of it are squarely at the feet of Donald Trump. I'm not talking about what the propaganda says. I'm not talking about what he may try to say in the media or who he may try to blame. The only reason we're in Iran right now is Donald Trump. The only reason that service members will be coming back in the form of dignified transfers will be Donald Trump. And I'm not even confident we'll get the truth about how many troops that we've lost or how poorly this war effort is going.
We've already seen the Pentagon shade the truth, repress a lot of information that is associated with casualty numbers. And so, you know, this is in the first days of the war. It appears that you're right. Pete Hegseth spoke to the media and the nation today. Play me cut 10. This is about the Strait of Hormuz and the critical nature of it and the fact that, you know, they've identified it as the centerpiece of what they're doing. Don't worry, we got it type thing. Here's Pete Hegseth.
Alexandra Ingersoll, One America News. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Strait of Hormuz and when it might be fully operational again? And how do we ensure our objective of denying Iran a nuclear weapon if they continue to align with our adversaries?
So I'll take it and chime in, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like it all. I want to emphasize what the chairman said about that. The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that. Now, there's a reason why we chose as one of our primary objectives destroy the Navy. We understood the ability to interdict shipping is something Iran has done for 40 years. It's key terrain. They've used it as leverage. The world is seeing what they'll do to fight back in that context. And so we've heard them talk about taking various measures, and we're planning for all of them. So we have a plan for every option here. We're working with our interagency partners, and that's not a strait we're going to allow to remain contested or with a lack of flow of commercial goods. So we're aware of that. We're laser focused on our military objectives, but also want to make sure our partners across this government understand we're working with you to make sure that energy flows. And that's an important part. And the second question was on the nuclear capability. As we said from the beginning, their strategy shifted just from defense of their nuclear facilities to a conventional umbrella of so many missiles that no one would challenge their ability to the opportunity to defeat their nuclear capabilities. And it was growing by the day. So with Iran at its weakest moment, going at that ballistic missile capability creates an opportunity to ensure at any point in time that Iran give up their nuclear capabilities, or if need be, you prevent them from doing it, as the president has done once already with Operation Midnight Hammer, obliterating those capabilities. So the conventional side is a huge part at getting at denying nuclear capabilities.
Okay, so he really said, I don't know if anybody noticed there, but he really said nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And it was a word salad which was well constructed. In other words, if you're not paying close attention, it sounds reasonably plausible. It sounds somewhat sane. But if you look at the question itself, as far as denying the possibility of a future nuclear weapon, there is no specificity. There is no determination as far as what we're doing, how it's going to lead to making sure that we're not back here in 5 years. And even in that answer, he said, you know, if not for Operation Midnight Hammer. So Midnight Hammer did not preclude this. Midnight Hammer did not in any way prevent this. So in other words, there's nothing that we're doing as far as this air campaign, which is going to ensure, if you believe the administration, and that's a huge caveat, there's nothing to ensure that this is going to bring about the stated desired result of making sure that Iran doesn't have any nuclear capabilities.
And the Strait of Hormuz, which is where the question started, he just kind of, again, just kind of two-stepped it, said working with our partners, and believe me, the only reason it's not open is because of those Iran missile strikes. Yeah, no kidding, dude. I mean, I understand that it's not open because of Iran and because of the missile strikes, but that's only one element. There are mines, there are drones, and there are missiles. It's actually a three-layered threat, and it's been proven to be pretty powerful and pretty potent as a threat. So he didn't really address it in any substantive way.
The failure of, I think, the media to ask the correct question as far as why have, in other words, they haven't forced this administration to explain how are we to achieve any of these objectives purely through aerial assault, because the answer that everyone is avoiding here is that it can't be done. You cannot bring Iran to its knees purely by aerial assault or by sinking its naval capabilities. It's going to have to lead to ground troops, which the administration does not want to admit, even though we are moving in that direction. Because you can't have an effective regime change unless you're on the ground making sure that the new government is in place and will hold. So that can't be on the table. You can't obliterate its nuclear capability unless you're on the ground and actually can see what their nuclear capabilities are and can also remove all the fissile material. They don't want to say that, and the media is not asking that exact question to have them admit it.
I think that's just a great summary of the situation we find ourselves in, and the imperatives that the administration has referred to along the way, even though the imperatives shift, how they require boots on the ground. You cannot remove these nuclear fissile materials and capabilities on the part of Iran without those boots on the ground. And by the way, the nuclear material isn't all in one place. It's probably in 3 different locations across the country. So you have to trust your intelligence, have confidence. And it's not as though they don't know your plan. Like, oh, you're after them. It's going to be very well defended. So I'm quite concerned. And in that spirit, there was a question for you. Let me just get it here. Karen asks, hi, Mo, there were many moms out there in a panic that their kids would get drafted. How much do you think this is a real concern? From Karen.
I don't, since this is an election year, I don't see, and since this administration is motivated primarily by politics, the political calculation of everything, as far as domestically, the implementation of a draft, there's no way in the world, because that would ensure, beyond their control, loss of the House and the Senate. And given they are so unserious about everything else in the world, they are serious about protecting their margins in Congress. And the draft wasn't popular when during the Vietnam War, and it's not going to be popular for an unpopular war even now. It's put out there because they want to say that everything is still on the table. But realistically, there's no way in the world that they would try to go to the American people in an election year and say, hey, please sign up your sons for this unpopular war.
Yeah, indeed. Somebody was noting that wasn't this maybe a plan to Straits of Hormuz closed to drive up the price of oil? I don't understand. Resulting in the price of U.S. oil reserves skyrocketing? No, is my short answer to that, Katie. No, this is it's catastrophic to have the Strait closed, just full stop. Okay, so there's no 3D chess about closing the Strait. I'll welcome in Michael Shure as well, who joins us also when he can swing it on Fridays as well. Both of you guys are so generous with your time. I appreciate it when you guys can make it happen. And I wanted to play for you Andy Kim's take on this. Play me cut 8, because it's not as though nobody's calling this out, but it's sort of everybody falling into their camps. Go ahead.
Seeing right now is this administration literally just making this up as they go along. You just had Secretary Wright. This is somebody who just a few days ago tweeted that we have already been escorting with our naval fleet ships and cargo through the Strait of Hormuz. And then they deleted that post. And then they decided not to move forward on the strategic petroleum reserves. Now they are. Now Secretary Wright is now saying that maybe by the end of this month, we will be escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz. They're just literally making this up. And that is what's so terrifying. That's why the markets are shaky. And that's why we have to be very concerned about what comes next for America's security and economic security.
Michael, they don't seem to have any coherence. I think it's a fair bust on them.
Yeah, and it's a familiar path, both in the Gulf War, in the Iraq War, in Vietnam. I mean, there are times when America goes in headlong into a conflict and doesn't have an escape hatch. It's what makes what George H.W. Bush did so admirable with Desert Storm, to the point where even when they said, this happened so fast and so successfully, that we should go in and get Hussein. Well, he didn't go do that, to his great credit. I mean, he said, this is why we're going in, this is what we're going to do, and then we're going to leave. Well, you're not seeing anything like that from the Trump administration. As Senator Kim said, there is a difference in the way they've approached this, and that they thought that this was just going to be bomb Iran and get out to a degree. Oh, maybe we're not going to. We're going to stay here. Oh, the oil prices are going up. And the fact that they weren't able to piece together the effects of this war, and just consistent with what Mo was saying about everything having to be politics in 2026, that they're not able to have the foresight that rising prices anywhere, not necessarily the markets maybe, but rising prices at the supermarkets and at the gas stations, that's going to be devastating, and it always is, to the party that's in power.
Hegseth seemed very concerned today during his briefing about the way it's playing in media. Seems sort of almost, obsessed with the descriptive banners that were appearing on various newscasts that he'd seen. He sort of rewrote them in the briefing. It was a weird thing for an effort, a military effort of this size, and historic military effort of this size, to focus on the media play. It seemed a bit both odd and yet on brand for him, Mo?
It was on brand, but I don't think it's odd, because everything that this administration has done has been predicated on how it plays in the media. You have the president who is always responding directly and personally to hosts of cable news shows. You have Pete Hegseth, who's worried about how he looks in photos. You have the White House social media putting out memes and basically game trailer videos. There is a degree of unseriousness, but there is a consistency where they're always worried about, do they have my better side? Are we coming across in a way that we, the administration, likes? Now, I understand that with every war effort, there is a propaganda, there is a media component to it to make sure that you have the will of the American people supporting you. But this is way beyond that, and this is something completely different. It's obsession with how it is playing as far as how the administration is looking, not necessarily how the war effort is actually going. And those are two separate and distinct ideas.
Tony, play a little bit of Hegseth, of cut 11, and him at this briefing this morning, just to give Michael a feel for it as well.
We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy for our enemies. Yet some in this crew, in the press, just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. I used to be in that business, and I know that everything is written intentionally. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen the last couple of days, alongside visuals of civilian or energy targets that Iran has hit, because that's what they do. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Because they are. They know it, and so do you, if it can be admitted. Or more fake news from CNN. reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better.
You know, I'll just stop it there because I think the idea somehow that you've got, that's really gross, Michael Shure, that he all of a sudden, mentions Ellison and the take over that network,
There's three things at play there. The first thing that is surprising is that he criticizes a banner saying that the war in the Mideast intensifies. Yesterday, the Secretary of Defense said the war is going to intensify now. This is going to be the most intense day. So God forbid a news media operation puts down war in Mideast intensifies, confirming everything that the Secretary of Defense said was going to happen. Secondly, they did underestimate the impact of the Strait of Hormuz. If they thought about it and they were aware of it, then why did they go in and do this? Because they knew this was going to happen, right? I mean, so if you knew it was going to happen, own it and say, we didn't underestimate it. We knew exactly what was going to happen, but we thought it was worth it anyway. But, their ability to kind of twist things is both successful, to a certain degree admirable because of its success, but also criminal at the same time because they're trying to, to make people think that they aren't thinking straight. And he talks about unserious people and serious people. This is what happens when you have an unserious administration without serious people. Donald Rumsfeld really pissed a lot of people off. A lot of people couldn't stand Don Rumsfeld. He was a serious person. He was someone who was in the job because he deserved to be in the job, even if you couldn't stand him, even if he did a terrible job and he found himself unworthy of that position in the end. That's a judgment call. But he was a serious person. There are no serious people in this administration. That cabinet room is full of people who, by and large, are not serious. And this is what happens. You can't go to war with American lives and have unserious people there. And then to prove the unseriousness, he comes out and he talks about the person who's buying, the company that's buying Warner Brothers that owns CNN, and saying, I can't wait till the new ownership gets in there so that we have our kind of news in this deal that we have blessed and made happen. It's really ugly and almost, worth looking at in an antitrust kind of a way. I mean, I was astonished by every word I just heard there.
Yeah. So well said. I mean, lightweight's all performative theater of government, but not serious, and then taking on this incredibly serious thing. Now, Stephen Miller is part of the propaganda machine.
Speaking of serious.
and listen to the way he comes on strong with the notion that there's an absolute domination of the Americans in Iran. It's cut 5, please, Tony.
Tell us about the progress of Operation Epic Fury.
Well, I think it's important for your viewers, Jesse, and the American people to know that there's never in history been a more total asymmetric, one-sided annihilation of the enemy than you are witnessing that is unfolding right now in Iran. Iran has long been feared by all the nations of the Middle East. It's long been believed to be one of the great military powers of the region, and yet the United States, under President Trump's leadership, has annihilated their Navy, has annihilated their missile capabilities, has dealt devastating strikes to the IRGC and their command structure, has taken out, in collaboration and coordination with Israel, their nation's sinister leadership and command structure. It has been a complete wipeout of their capacity to unleash violence on the world. And we are in the process right now of degrading their entire military industrial base so that they cannot resume creating and building these weapons that not only could reach Europe, that not only can reach our military bases, but that someday could reach the mainland United States. So this has been, by every definition, an unprecedented military success against a regime that since 1979 has exported nothing but bloodshed and violence and claimed countless American lives.
So he comes on pretty heavy. I think we're going to lose Michael Shure here. Maybe give me one more. Okay, if you got to run
Yeah,
right
I mean,
this
I can
second.
talk about Stephen Miller quickly and then leave it to you.
Yeah, go ahead, and we'll let you go.
I mean, again, this is, and Mo references this, part of what somebody like Stephen Miller's job is, whether it's Stephen Miller or somebody else, is to push this propaganda, push the success, tell everyone we're doing the best job. There's never been anything like this. It takes on a different exclamation point when it's the Trump administration, because there's almost a comedy to it, right? I mean, like, it's almost as if it is caricaturing other administrations during other wars where we hear this, but this time they're saying it in a way that we've never heard it said. You'll recall Baghdad Bob in Iraq. He was the propaganda guy during the Gulf War, and we all thought it was hysterical. We are winning, everything's going to be great. And that reminds me, and when your own White House employee is saying these sorts of things and you're thinking, oh my God, it reminds me of Baghdad Bob, we're in the wrong place.
I've mentioned Baghdad Bob a few times on this show in relation to just this, so I love that you referenced it as well. There he is. Michael, you're so wonderful to give us some time. I know you got, there's stuff in the family, and you're at a hospital and all this stuff, and you're the very best to join us. So thank you, and we'll be in touch. Wishing you the well. Wishing you the best. Yeah, Michael Shure, everybody. Mo, I wanted you on the end of the war and when that might come to hear this. Donald Trump called in to Fox News Channel and shared his thoughts on when the end of the war might happen. Here you go.
Doing something about it. And I had to take an excursion. We had the greatest economy in history. We still do. Oh, this will bounce right back. When it's over, and I don't think it's going to be long, when it's over, this is going to bounce right back so fast.
When are you going to know when it's over?
When I feel it.
Okay.
I feel it in my bones.
Will you ask anybody in particular? Would that be some of these a joint decision?
Well, I deal with people. I have great people. Yeah. I'm doing something about it, and I had to
that he does have great people, or does he have great people?
It doesn't seem like he's relying on anybody other than his gut. We know that he is loath to actually read an intelligence briefing or to pay attention to his generals. So he's been consistent as far as, what I feel. I felt that Iran was going to attack first. This is all very much a personal idea of what America should do. And regardless of what the president should say or any world leader should say, the war is not going to be over just because President Trump says militarily we are withdrawing. That doesn't mean the war is over. It doesn't mean that Iran is going to stop blocking the Strait of Hormuz. It doesn't mean that Iran is not going to activate sleeper cells here in the United States. It doesn't mean that Iran is going to cease being a bad actor in the region. Two things can be true. We can celebrate the fall of the Iranian regime if it should happen, but also have eyes wide open as far as what it will mean going forward. Yes, the war ended as far as the installation of the Shah in 1953, but in no way did that end what Iran was going to do to respond to that. And we saw what happened over the next 47 years that people always want to talk about since 1979. The response from Iran, just to put a button on this, is not necessarily going to be up until the end of military hostilities. It's something that we're going to have to continue to deal with long after President Trump decides to end formal hostilities.
Meantime, the president is still doing these rallies in various places, and sometimes they're in conjunction with trying to support a candidate for a Senate or the House. And sometimes they're just out there kind of whipping up the American people in support of his agenda, or I'm unclear. I mean, I think he feels good. I think he's buoyed by these crowds that are out there to see him, the MAGA crowd with the hats and whatnot. So at this rally in Kentucky, a woman collapses behind Trump. Watch over, it'll be his left shoulder here. You'll watch this, over his left shoulder.
I have these great speechwriters. I drive them crazy because half of the time I'm not. But Gavin Newsom, in an interview,
she's shouting to him, Mr. President, Mr. President. You see her there? She's pointing to somebody who's passed out, who's collapsed. And he's turning, looking, and then...
You have a doctor in the house, please? Doctor?
So there's a commotion. Security comes in. Some other people come in.
Yeah, take your time, please.
And Trump stands at the podium, and several minutes pass.
Take your time.
And then, in sort of an odd moment, but some minutes later, he didn't pick up where he left off. He did this. They're trying to get her fresh air. They're fanning her face, I guess. This person who's collapsed on the floor.
Want to play a song? Do you think the people backstage are listening to me? How about Ave Maria? Well, because is going to be okay. How about putting it in right now, Ave Maria, if they are listening? Ave Maria by Pavarotti. Right?
Did they actually get it running, Tony? Did they actually get the Ave Maria running? I never saw that. I never saw it. I'm sure they did at some point. Just the oddest moment. But they finally got her up. I don't think they ever got the music playing. Anyway, it was just the weirdest moment at this rally. And just the notion that you're having rallies while this Iran conflagration continues, it's insanity. I mean, this is a historic closure of the strait. It's a historic military, I would say, adventurous effort, and it's not going well. I mean, there are a lot of problems here, and that you're going on rallies, it's wild.
It's more of the same as far as the lack of seriousness, the unserious administration. You can see there's a common thread of performance here where Donald Trump, he could have handled it far worse, and he has done things far worse, but he was still concerned about the uncomfortable silence of the moment and felt that music would have been a balm for it to soothe the crowd. So people didn't have to deal with the uncomfortable nature of the silence while a woman was being attended to by paramedics or other first responders. His mind is never actually on the most important thing of the moment. It never is outside of himself. That's something that has been consistent through all of his rallies and everything that he has done. Why a president is doing rallies as opposed to presidential addresses from the Oval Office, speaking to Americans on a consistent basis about what is going to happen, what needs to happen. I don't understand it. Look, I'm old enough to remember how serious presidents conducted themselves when, escalating a war effort. This is not that. He is not them. And I'm not expecting him to change. But it is fair to point out that we lose something by his continuing unseriousness, where we are distracted away from how poorly this war effort is going. Yes, are we succeeding militarily? Yes, we're bombing the shit out of them. Excuse me for my language. Yes, we're doing that. But are we actually achieving anything because of it? They can't point to anything tangible because there's nothing tangible to point to.
Yeah, and you're right to point to the bombing, because that's kind of viewed as the way to whatever end and whatever goal you want to dream up. And I think that Trump, who, again, as you suggested, doesn't read anything, doesn't really meet with anyone, and maintain his attention span past 45, 50 seconds from what we've heard, really doesn't realize the history, the dark history of bombing to try to get regime change in one way or another. I mean, the lessons are so clearly learned through history, through the decades. It's never been an effective way to achieve that end. But I think he came across the 12-day June incursion into Iran, took out that facility, whatever it was just the physical structure, didn't decimate the nuclear program the way he said he did, and got away from it with the choreographed Iranian response, not really, any casualties per se. So he then got into that adventurism in Venezuela, where he does that and it seems like a video game success. The SEAL team dropping from the choppers, that video that was all released, the night vision stuff of them running across the compound, etc. And he successfully replaced the regime, if you will. He didn't really replace the regime, but, the top of the regime in Venezuela, and again, didn't pay a price. So in any case, now he feels somehow, well, I just turn loose the same crew and do it in Iran, do it with my pal Netanyahu, and I'll get the goal that I want, which seemed to be shifting, regime change, friendlier. I think Netanyahu gave him the goal, don't you? I mean, we have to do this now,
Absolutely. You can see that a lot of our foreign policy is predicated on what other leaders tell him, what Putin will tell him to do. And that's another conversation about how Putin is meddling in this and trying to thwart our goals while at the same time winking and nodding. But what happens here is and you were spot on, Mark, and I got to give you credit, talking about what he saw in Venezuela, he thought was going to be the formula to use in Iran, when they are different countries, different capabilities, different histories, different complexities, capacities. And as far as miscalculation, it was an obvious miscalculation, because in Trump's mind, we would have been in and out in 2 weeks. We would have had a new regime, no lost American lives. And then the Republicans would have been able to use this, quote unquote, as a marketing and politicking gimmick into the midterms, when it's turned into absolutely not that.
Yeah, it was turned into just the opposite. And, when asked about what you're talking about, which is Putin and helping the Iranians, Trump even said, I think he might be helping. President Trump conceded that Russian President Vladimir Putin is probably helping Iran fight the U.S. amid Trump's war there. Quote, I think he might be helping him in Iran a little bit. Yeah, I guess. And he probably thinks we're helping Ukraine, right? And I can tell you that he said that, just the last thing he said, I can tell you that yesterday on the call with the president, the Russians said they have not been sharing information. That's according to Steve Witkoff, who's his right-hand person. So, we take them at their word. He related all of that. It seems to me, Russia, short-term and maybe even long-term winners in all of this. Short-term because their oil now gets sanctions relief, right? Now they've been blessed to sell it. And also it's selling at an incredibly high price.
There's no downside to this from the standpoint of Russia. Our focus is not on Ukraine. We can't necessarily help Ukraine militarily, financially, when we're stuck in our own quagmire in Iran. And then Russia gets to play both sides as far as helping Iran and appearing to be on the side of the U.S. as far as publicly. They have the sanctions, as you've mentioned, regarding Russian oil being eased. There is nothing bad here happening for Vladimir Putin, and which is not a coincidence, because everything which has been done by Donald Trump in some way has benefited Vladimir Putin.
Right on. Before I lose you, I want to ask you about something that I think many would say, this entire war is a distraction from Epstein, et cetera. Certainly, there have been a lot of revelations in this Epstein world that continue to be followed by other revelations. And now Richard Kahn, who is Jeffrey Epstein's longtime accountant, is meeting with Congress in a closed-door meeting. And apparently, this is the House Oversight Committee. He testified for about 6 hours this week as a part of this continuing probe into Epstein. And if anybody knows the world of Epstein well, it's this guy, right? The longtime accountant. He says, of course, this will come as no surprise, he never saw or knew about any wrongdoing, and in 6 hours of testimony, never blinked on that. In the years that I provided outside accounting and bookkeeping services for Jeffrey Epstein, I was not aware of the terrible and unforgivable things that he did to women and girls.
But Mark, he admits that Jeffrey Epstein was paying off victims and paid off a victim allegedly for the benefit of Donald Trump. He may not have witnessed firsthand, but he was aware, at least a reasonable person can discern that he was aware that there was questionable, arguably criminal behavior that he had to financially cover up.
there's a lot of I was writing checks, etc., but I didn't know, precisely what this stuff was going for. In his opening statement, he told the committee that he was aware of Epstein's arrest for soliciting a minor, but said that Epstein told him it was a mistake and he did not know the woman was underage and that nothing like that would happen again. He said, I believed him at the time and never saw what appeared to be a minor in his presence after that. And then he says, I didn't see any red flags. The New Mexico investigation, just to round out the Epstein thing, and it's deep and we can get into it another time, but the New Mexico operation appears to be as dark as it comes, man. These are women trafficked there. Maybe they were offed there as a result of rough sex gone really bad, and or maybe off for other reasons. But it would appear from what we're hearing from those who were former ranch workers who were talking to, in one case, a talk radio host, in another case, a journalist. Now we're learning there was a lot there in that ranch. And the final thing I'll say about the ranch is it appears that there was a eugenics program underway. Jeffrey Epstein was very much interested in spreading his seed, and his progeny would somehow, inhabit the earth in a bigger and bigger way. He not only spoke of it, he actually had employed researchers to do this, and it's spoken of in relation to this New Mexico complex.
Yeah, whenever you invoke eugenics, there's usually some sort of murder or death attached to it. You look through history, when you ever talk about white supremacy, if you want to talk about Aryan supremacy or whatever Hitler did, or even other episodes of genocide around the world, there's always a death component to it. So when I hear that Jeffrey Epstein was very interested in eugenics and spreading his seed and the superiority of his genes, that means that there's a perceived inferiority, and that means that people are deemed less than and unworthy of life or consideration.
Right on. Any questions for Mo before I let him go? Hi, Mo. Oh, we already did this. There are many moms out there. We did this on the draft. Here's to Mr. Mo Kelly and a Dodgers three-peat. This is Louis. He's a Southern California viewer and listener.
That's right. I'll take it.
A lot of Giants fans on here too. So, but boy, you guys are stacked. The Dodgers are stacked. How many fire hoses do we have? Every day it's something, says Richard Delamater. Yeah, ain't it true? Yeah. There's a lot. You're here next Wednesday to, I think, is it next Wednesday?
Yeah, the 24th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Looking forward to doing that. So, hey, Mo Kelly, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Mark.
Appreciate you. Mo Kelly, everybody.
Be safe.
Right on, everyone.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Smash the like button if you would. It's a thing, and YouTube helps us. And I am watching with great interest what's happening in Iran. That refueling plane and crashing in Iraq. All 6 of those U.S. crew members perish. You saw that the judge threw out the Justice Department subpoenas to the Federal Reserve. Donald Trump was trying to hassle the Federal Reserve around, it wasn't around some perceived malfeasance or whatever on the rehabbing or remodeling of the Federal Reserve building. They basically, it was Janine Pirro doing a criminal investigation into Jerome Powell, the chair of the Fed. Crazy. So, again, that appears to be going nowhere. So, as we watch this stuff,
federal judge is saying that it was politically motivated. Tossed it right out. Tossed out the case.
Yeah,
yep.
There it is, politically motivated. I mean, it was, seemed to pretty clearly. So, I know what you're saying. Is there time for Florida? No Albert is here. There's no Albert. So no. We are Albert-less.
But we have a Friday Fabulous Florida. I think we should do it.
Yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to make sure that it's loaded here. I'm having trouble with the loading.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I click and nothing happens on the first story.
Well, that's fun.
But the second story loads and the third story loads, but I promised 3 stories.
Well, I'll work on the first story.
No,
while
I've
you
got it
start-
now. I've got it.
Okay.
All is
right.
well. But Kim, thank you very much. Kim, always there to just, yeah, she's there to help out.
I blame you.
And to blame people for problems. This is something for those who are new that we used to do on the radio. We had a red hot radio show, and the radio station went away, and we brought the show over here. That's Kim and Albert, etc. So we used to do this segment. We did a lot of segments: Law and Disorder. We did what do we do, Kim? We did Law and Disorder. We
Stories
did
from the Sky.
Stories from the Sky.
Oh,
City Council
remember-
Theater was one of my favorites. When people get up at the City Council and they make
I
speeches, we
love
used to
that
do
one.
that.
We need to do more of that. What about Televangelist Theater? we had?
Televangelist Theater. We had televangelists. And we
Last
did Chunk
Call.
of Trump, of course. I
Trump.
did Bowling with Biden when Biden was
Yeah.
president.
Mhm.
So we did all of these different franchises, right? So one of the franchises that survived is this one that we do on Fridays. We showcase weird stories from Florida. We do it in a segment we call Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
A man from Florida is accused of stealing more than $500,000 worth of onions and potatoes.
What?
You got to go big or don't go at all.
Was he
The-
holding a giant rally or something? A potato rally? That's a
It does
lot of
seem
food.
like an odd plan to steal $500,000 worth of onions and potatoes.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I don't work to do what? I don't know. But there he is. Take a look. You can find his booking photo here. 39-year-old Jason Canals from Spring Hill, Florida. He was arrested on 8 counts of interstate transport of stolen property stemming from allegations that he defrauded produce suppliers with multiple schemes. If you're going to have a scheme, have multiple schemes. Why
Yeah, I mean,
not?
things that have something to do with St. Patrick's Day, you know?
Oh.
Maybe.
One of the schemes, apparently he posed as a company, even going so far as to use their email signature block and request shipments from produce suppliers. Then he changed the delivery address after the shipments had been sent and then never provided payment. In another scheme, he was accused of faking documentation in order to convince suppliers that he had paid for shipments when in fact he hadn't. The schemes provided Cannell with more than $500,000 worth of onions and potatoes. Wow. Well, you might think it's a lighthearted thing, but he faces 10 years in federal prison if convicted.
What?
Yeah.
Did he
that's
ever
right.
say what he intended to do with all of that food?
I guess he resells it, is what I would assume.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I just figured that's what the plan is. I mean, I don't think it was, I don't think he's, I don't think he's consuming it in any way, I guess I would say. Florida man arrested after threatening workers with large axe at Ocala Car Wash. It's the axe returning. Machetes and axes are the Floridians' choice of assault weaponry. Bryce Thayer, 36 years old, arrested after allegedly threatening 2 Ocala car wash workers with a large axe. They were closing business for the night. They did manage to disarm and detain him after a physical struggle.
Wow. Look at that. They took him down.
Security footage confirming it was an act of self-defense. Look at this guy swinging his axe. Indeed. Tricky move. The one guy seemed to really take it on. The other guy was kind of running back up, is what you can see in this security footage. You'll see the one guy runs at him like that, takes him down.
The minute
Then
he puts his arm down with the axe. Yeah.
Yeah. Deputies discovered a glass pipe in Thayer's possession upon arresting him, and that pipe associated with anybody?
Methamphetamines, Mark.
Methamphetamines, the chosen drug of Florida. And finally, a Florida man moved an Amazon van with the delivery driver inside because, not to steal anything, because it was blocking the road and he'd had enough.
Get it out of the way.
64-year-old Merritt Island man arrested after he got into an Amazon delivery van that was blocking the road. Investigators say that he drove the vehicle while the delivery driver was still inside. The man is Joseph Baldy, faces grand theft and kidnapping charges. Wow. Started as a simple move and turns into an ugly, ugly situation.
I guess he wasn't going to be waiting for that package to be delivered.
The driver said that he had briefly stopped the delivery van along the roadway to drop off packages at nearby homes, and this older man in a Toyota sedan began yelling at him to move the vehicle. Then he told the man, "Hey, I'll move the vehicle in a second. I'm just delivering something." Said the man got into the driver's seat of the Amazon van, attempted to drive away. And the Amazon driver said he ran after the vehicle, climbed into the van through the open side door in an effort to stop him. Driver made arm motions in an apparent attempt to keep the Amazon driver from intervening before abruptly stopping the van and leaving it in drive. The driver was able to stop the vehicle, record the man getting back into the Toyota and leaving the area, and that led the cops to Joseph Baldy of Merritt Island.
Good day, sir.
They got him. They got him. It was not easy, but
what he's got going here is a situation.
He does have a situation. Well, we must choose a favorite. We don't want to. It's like choosing between children, but we must. And I'll remind you of the stories. The Florida man accused of stealing more than $500,000 worth of onions and potatoes. The Florida man arrested after threatening workers with a large axe at the car wash. The Florida man moving the Amazon van with the delivery driver still inside because it was blocking the road. The live chat likes the stealing of onions by 50%. Thank you,
Wow.
Tony, for putting that up. The Amazon van moved with the driver inside gets 29%. Oh, these are shifting poll right now. These poll numbers are shifting even as we speak. But it looks like stealing the onions and potatoes takes the day, 46%. The axe at the car wash, though, in a photo finish with Amazon van. I guess the onions and potatoes is so exotic and weird. Maybe that's a good one. But
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
What do you think, Culture Blaster?
I think we're living in a world where food is so valuable that it becomes like gold, and that's why the theft occurred.
Okay, well, very, very good. That is Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
On everybody. So that's Friday Fabulous Florida. That's how we do it. Ron Cook, $20 super sticker.
Big shout
Thank
out.
you, Ron. If you want to join the folks who keep us on the air, you do it through Patreon and PayPal. There are links to both under this video. Patreon and PayPal. Become a monthly donor. Support us. If you prefer to send us a check or something, you can do that too. You just drop me an email and I'll send you the address for the mothership. And you can send a check there. The email is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Again, Patreon and PayPal under all our videos. Luis says, did we get it wrong? Is it Trump bored, B-O-R-E-D, of peace because war is so much more exciting? And I guess he thinks casualties equal the Nobel Prize votes? Yeah. Yeah, he was bored. It was dull. I think he was coming off that Venezuela high, man, and just couldn't wait to get into his next scene. I got a text message from my friend in Germany.
And now, your comments.
I guess we're doing comments, yes. I got a text message from my friend in Germany last night. It said, what the hell is that a-hole doing to our gas prices? Yeah. Thank you, Wes in Florida, for the $5 super chat. Yeah, I mean, it's
Big shout
this
out.
is only the beginning. Keg's breath can take 13 steps off a 12-step pier, says Richard Delamater. Yeah, he needs a program for sure. Trump's cabinet and advisors can't even tell him they don't want to wear the shoes that he's giving them. How are they going to tell him he's making mistakes with this war in Iran or about anything else? Yeah, he's surrounded by yes people, and we did the story about the shoes. It is kind of funny. He gets these shoes for everybody, and a lot of them are too big. Like Marco Rubio is like, it looks like he's walking around like a kid walks around in his dad's shoes. But he's wearing them, and I love them. Never been better because the president gave them to him. Hey, this has been a rough week. I wish I could have some extra equity or mercy, said Richard Delamater. Richard Delamater's always looking for the rod of equity and mercy. He's really pitching for it all the time. Am I going to give Richard Delamater the rod of equity and mercy? I'll ask Mr. Predicto. And
it is a strong possibility.
Oh, it's a strong possibility. Well, that's interesting, Richard. You might hang out and maybe you'll get it before the end of the show. All right. I'm obligated by contract to end the week with something a little more fun, a little lighter. The world of streaming, the world of motion pictures, the Oscars, I think, are this weekend. Aren't they a great culture blaster? So, yeah. I will bring him on now. He comes and goes on a rainbow. He's the wonderful culture blaster, Michael Snyder. And how are you, Michael?
So happy to see you back, Mark. I do have to say, shout out to the mighty Mo Kelly and the magnificent Ms. McAllister for picking up the slack on Friday of last week.
Yeah.
There have been conflicting rumors about your absence, though, Mark.
Oh, really?
I had it on good authority that you were auditioning for the new reality competition, Dancing Weatherman with the Stars.
Oh, yeah. I used to be, many years ago, a weather guy. Yeah.
After further investigation, I have concluded that you were in a deep sugar coma after one too many Sweet 106 cupcakes.
Sweet 106 cupcakes do it for me, baby. I'm in. I love it.
Anyway,
yeah.
It is.
Did we do them today, Kim? Did we do a spot for them or not? I don't remember whether we have or not.
Well, the least you can do is offer me a cupcake in the green room, but I see nothing. I
think we should do it. Maybe after Michael Snyder, we will.
Oh my God!
Maybe right now.
No, Kim, hold
he's
it.
Not, he's very, he started. You can't stop him.
I'm champing at the bit.
Oh, it's too bad though. It's already up on the screen.
Oh, for
Sweet
God's
106
sake.
Bakery is. They are wonderful. We had an email that was so effusive in the praise of Sweet 106 Bakery that we probably should have done it then, but let me just mention it now.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
I'm getting so much great feedback on Sweet 106 Bakery, so check them out. Mark T at checkout, 15% off. They have a new product. It's the smaller version of, it's the mini spring bundle, and today is the first day you can order it. So definitely get it. Actually, I think yesterday was the first day you could order it, which is why Christy came on.
You would think with all this fuss,
she's won Cupcake Wars twice. Jump on the sweet train, baby. Sweet106bakery.com. Use our discount code MarkT for 15% off. Sweet106bakery.com. I love them. And now, Michael, without any further delay,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, Culture Blaster, what were you saying? What can you tell us about movies, streaming, whatever else moves you?
No, Mark. It's Friday the 13th, 2026.
Oh, that's right. My God.
Can an entire country walk under a ladder or break a mirror? It's kind of like what it feels like right now.
It does feel that way.
I do hope they take my design for the Donald Trump Presidential Library seriously to truly honor his career, personality, and intellectual acumen.
Yeah.
I proposed a rubber room with a play school see and say on a gold-plated podium. What do you think?
Oh, my God.
Don't talk to me that way.
Wow,
That was very inappropriate.
It's a winner, I'm telling you. All right, let's talk movies. I'm going to bookend the film reviews with two horror movies because, there's the high-end version, or relatively speaking, of the one that has more sophistication involved, and then there's the weird burlesque horror movie.
All right.
And in the middle, we'll have more serious stuff for more serious people. Let's lead it off with Undertone. And Undertone is a low-budget film, and I believe made in Canada, but it's done pretty well. And what it's about is a couple of hosts of a paranormal podcast get some tapes or audio tracks sent to them, and as they unspool them on the show, creepy things start happening. So, it's atmosphere to despair. I really the execution's kind of muddy, and there's kind of a non sequitur ending. The essentials are that there's a man and a woman on this audio track, and a man and a woman hosting this thing. And the movie focuses on actress.
It's a radio show they host, or a podcast?
It's a podcast show, as I was saying. Although in your case, you do many different things along those lines.
Go ahead.
This is podcast, dude. From the get-go, I mean, let's think about it. Podcasting is a demonic exercise in audience soul-sucking. It's happening all across the globe. Podcasts are omnipresent, and I think bad for your health. And this movie kind of proves it. They're listening to these audio tapes of a man and a woman, and the woman is increasingly freaking out. And as this is happening, the hostess of the show, again played by Nina Kiri, is going through some serious trouble of her own. She's housebound because her mother is upstairs in bed, seemingly on the edge of death, and she's kind of catering to her mom. And while this specter of death hovers over the entire enterprise, the woman is obviously having some issues. And every audio tape makes things crazier and crazier, to the point where when you get to the last of them, it's kind of the culmination of all this tension that's built. The non sequitur ending, I got to say, it lessens this, but the sound design and the camera work are superb. There's kind of a wonky demonic mythology that unfurls over the course of the audio tracks that they're listening to. And this is kind of filmmaking for 2026. Minimal budget, single location, this one house, done to great effect. The problems with Undertone are, other than this kind of occasionally wonky mythology that they're building about a child snatching female demon, this doesn't break new ground, and its payoff isn't as powerful as it should be. But despite its flaws, it's a promising debut for the director and screenwriter Ian Tuason. And again, Nina Kiri as the focal point of the movie, playing Evie, is damn good. It's like a show reel that lasts for 90 minutes. And
so with some qualifications, you like it. Moving on, Mr. Snyder.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to something that people in our audience may like. It's called Reminders of Him, and it's a romantic drama, and it's the latest movie adaptation of kind of your typically angsty middlebrow romance novel by Colleen Hoover, After It Ends With Us and Regretting You, both of which were made into feature films, neither of which I was crazy about. And I'm a little more into this to some extent. And again, a lot of it is performance based. And the situation is a young woman named Kenna returns to her Wyoming hometown after a stint in prison. And something awful has happened. And it's addressed very, very early in the movie. And while back, she runs into the best friend of her, her late boyfriend. And he has become kind of a father figure to the daughter she had with the late boyfriend. And the parents of the late boyfriend don't take too kindly to the return of Kenna. And she's desperate to kind of reconnect with this child of hers who was taken from her after a prison birth. So it's got a little gravitas and a little bit of weight. And I have to say that Micah Monroe, who was very, very good in the Nick Cage horror film Longlegs, and she was in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, she is wonderful as Kenna. And talk about supporting players. The best friend, who's still living in the same Wyoming town and is a former NFL player, who has his own little bar that he's developed, is played by Tyreek Withers, who was very good in Him, which he was the best thing about the movie Him. And they have this kind of romantic connection, and things are going to be problematic. Vanessa Caswell does well with what she's been given. The screen play was co-written by Colleen Hoover, so it's what she wanted, the original novelist.
The writer.
And the ex or late boyfriend's mom and dad are played by Lauren Graham and Bradley Whitford. So you have acting firepower. So for what it is, I think it does a good job, and largely on the strength of Micah Monroe's performances alongside, over the course of the movie, alongside Withers, and also obviously Lauren Graham and Bradley Whitford. I give it a tentative okay for this type of film. It is opening wide today. as is, by the way, Undertone, which is, again, a little film, for a horror movie that's opening wide. Wow. They went to a lot of different outlets. Now, something a little more my speed than these previous films, and not totally successful, but still incredibly cool and kind of relevant, is Slanted, which is a movie that was written and directed by Amy Wang, and it's essentially The Substance meets Carrie meets Mean Girls meets an earnest look at the pros and cons of cultural assimilation. A young Asian woman who lives in America, came here as a child, was raised by her mom and dad, who are Chinese. Joan Wong is in her teens now, and she's kind of fixated on the beauty of the queen bees and the local clique in her high school, who are all blonde and pretty and incredibly Caucasian. And she would like to be like them. She wants to become the prom queen. And she stumbles upon a process and a company that oversees this process that can actually change your race over the course of a session. And so she decides to undergo this conversion. And in the process, the actress who plays her, who is, she's rather good in this thing, she becomes McKenna Grace. And that's kind of fascinating, when you think about it. But I have to say that none of the descriptions I gave, meaning the elements that kind of congeal to make this movie, pointing them out shouldn't be considered a slam. There are some obvious moments and obvious takes, but it's funny, and its take on race and how it informs young people and their lives and growing up in America is very valid. There's a lot of energy here, and there are no easy answers or a pretty bow wrapping it up.
Really?
And I thought it was actually...
She doesn't realize, like Dorothy did, that she was at home in her original race all along?
Well, I don't want to go that far. I do want to say that it doesn't end in a simplistic manner, and I kind of enjoyed what they did with it. I thought it was audacious in a way, and I thought that it was funny. It's a comedy and it has science fictional elements, and it has this drama about assimilation. So I thought it was pretty damn good, considering. It's
called Slanted, and it is in wide release.
No,
select
it's in
theaters. It's selected.
Yeah, I hope your theater is selected, as they say.
All right. What's next, Culture Blaster?
There's a kind of a thriller, and I want to bring a personal note to this. I believe this is the last movie with James Van Der Beek, who a lot of people know from Varsity Blues and Dawson's Creek. And who was incredibly funny playing himself in the sitcom Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23. I was like, wow, this is great. And I met him a couple times, and he was a pretty cool guy, and he died way too young and fairly recently. And I believe The Gates is his final performance. And in The Gates, 3 college kids, all black, they're trying to get to a party, and they want to take a shortcut because there's a traffic jam, and they have to go through a gated community. And once they get in, they find that they are the antithesis of everyone in the gated community, which is led by kind of a smooth talking but ultimately creepy pastor played by Van Der Beek. The college kids are played by Mason Gooding, who was in Booksmart and Heart Eyes. He's kind of the main guy. He's this, kind of clever guy. Algie Smith, who's the sort of wannabe gangster, and Keith Powers, who is a college athlete who has an injury and wants to hold on to his scholarship. So they're in this situation, and they witness a murder. And now they're trying to get the hell out of the gated community. And so there's I wouldn't call it a ticking clock, but, if they are found by the authorities and anybody fails to believe them, they're in big trouble. So The Gates actually has a little tension. It's not a great film, but it's done in a very professional style, and it's very well directed in that regard, written and directed by John Burr, and the actors are very, very good. It's not great, but it's good of kind. It's in select theaters. And again, it's called The Gates, and it's the last performance by James Van Der Beek, and, he plays a pretty convincing creepazoid.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So moving on to something that I had such high hopes for, and I enjoyed to an extent, Bank of Dave 2, The Lone Ranger. So this is another feel-good movie about ordinary Brits doing relatively extraordinary things. Think of The Full Monty, for example. It kind of based on a real thing, and they kind of pump it up, and it's sort of somewhat fictionalized, but it's got a basis in reality. And this is about the bold, speaking of bold, Dave Fishwick, a guy who sells vans in the kind of charming, sort of middle-class town of Burnley. And it's not a place that's economically secure anymore. The coal mines have gone down, the factories have closed. And so he decides to start a bank, his own bank. And if you saw the initial film, Bank of Dave, again, based on this true story of Dave Fishwick, you know this tale and you know his deal. And he's very inspiring on one level. And he's played by the great British actor, and he's incredibly versatile, Rory Kinnear. And he returns in this sequel, which is based on something that happened after Fishwick established the Bank of Dave successfully and fought the British banking monolith to get his own personal banking situation going. He decides that he's going to take on the payday loan companies who have basically stolen money from those who have come to them for loans by initiating massive
fees,
penalties and such. And so he decides to take them on. So Kinnear's back as Fishwick, Joe Hartley's back as his wife, Nikki, and also returning is Dave's aristocratic nemesis from the first movie, played by Hugh Bonneville, Lord Grantham himself, and also Dave's favorite classic rock band, who was kind of part of the first film, and they're back again, Def Leppard. So again, this is based on true events. It's somewhat true, and it feels a little hashed over after what we saw in Bank of Dave. It has very similar story beats.
Mobius says that I love the first Bank of Dave.
I did as well. And guess who's back? The director of the first one, Chris Fogan, and the same screenwriter, Piers Ashworth, who's very much at home with these British true story comedies, having done Fisherman's Friends and a few others. And despite the good intentions and talent, it does feel like a retread with none of the, or very little of the verve of the first movie, and a little too much sentimentality. They bring Chrissy Metz from This Is Us and The Hunting Wives in as an American journalist who wants to uncover all the bad things that the payday loan companies have been doing. And she has a bit of a romance with a Burnley local. I can't diss it. Not terrible is the...
Not terrible. You oftentimes end up in that space.
Is the short review. And again,
it
means...
Culture Blaster.
It means well. It does mean well. It is, in fact, only available on streaming. But if you like the first one, it's pleasant. That's the best.
What else do you have for us, Culture Blasters? Our time has almost run out.
Okay, I like comedy when it's done well. I like horror when it's done well. And I like a horror comedy when it's done well. And I have to say that Scared to Death is not terrible. And I mean, it's a little more low budget and cheesy looking than Undertone. And consider that Undertone was done in one location, and this seems like more low budget. So it's actually, as an Angelino, you'll like the fact that it is set in Altadena at a rundown former orphanage that is going to be the site of a film shoot. So you have Hollywood parody coming into this thing. You have the horror aspects of it when the crew decides they want to throw a seance to get the feel for the film in this rundown former orphanage. And of course, the news headlines from 50, 60 years ago surface, 5 orphans die of fright in this location. And are there ghosts still there? Anyway, one of the best things about this movie is that one of my favorite horror actors, the always hilarious Lynn Shay, who's been in various franchises, including the Conjuring franchise, I think. I don't know. She's been in a number of things. She first came to my attention playing the oversexed granny character in Kingpin. You may recollect
sure.
her.
Yeah,
she was hilarious. Lynn Shay is a veteran actress, good at horror, good at comedy, and so she was a good pick here to play the angry director of this, who thinks this horror film she's going to direct is beneath her. There's also a longtime horror icon named, what do they call this guy? The Grog. He's made a zillion horror films, and he's going to be the main focus of the one that they're shooting. And of course, once they try to do the seance, things go horribly wrong. I wish it was funnier. I mean, clearly they knew what they wanted to do. They have horror former Scream Queen Lucinda Jenny playing a small role in this thing. Ray Dawn Chong plays a character in this as well. And again, it's really all on the wonderful Lin Shaye, who will do anything for a laugh and anything for a fright. And I think from that standpoint, yay. The director and screenwriter Paul Boyd comes from shooting music videos. This is not great, but this is also like, as time wasters go, you could do worse.
Comedy horror, where is it? The Scared to Death.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is it playing?
I mean, it's not playing in a theater near you.
Well, where is it? Is it streaming? Where is it?
It is available in select theaters across our great
Okay,
nation.
so the Culture Blaster likes Scared to Death. Not bad, is what he's saying.
No, not bad.
Set in a rundown former orphanage, a comedy horror offering.
They actually had, for critics, a tour of that building
that's
in
cool.
Altadena if we wanted to come by.
Oh,
and
you
check
didn't do
out.
it?
No, I had other things to do.
The Gates is the James Vanderbeek finale, his last movie. They witness a murder. They have to get out of the area before the cops arrive. There's a sense of tension. Kind of works. He said he's not crazy for it, but he's not bad. And James Vanderbeek is very good.
Yeah, the three college kids, the black college kids in a largely white gated community.
Yeah.
Trouble.
And so that is in select theaters?
Yes.
Slanted, written and directed by who wrote and directed?
Amy Wong.
Yeah. And it's about a young Asian woman who came to America raised by her Chinese parents. She wants to be a prom queen. She wants to be Angloed, really, is what she wants.
And she does substance style.
She goes through a conversion that is offered. It's audacious as material goes, and it's funny. I'm intrigued by Slanted. It's available to those of us who want to seek it out in select theaters.
And the young actress who plays the initial version of the teen, Shirley Chen, I should have ID'd her earlier. She's very good in this. But, it becomes McKenna Grace's show as this, kind of anglicized version of the girl.
Slanted is in select theaters. Reminders of Him is the romantic drama. A young woman returning to her hometown after a stint in prison. And she runs into the best friend of her late boyfriend.
And sparks fly.
Is it what's her name?
I don't know if it's just me. I think that's the audio is gone for Mark and Michael. Am I wrong, Tony? Michael Snyder? I can't hear you either.
Yeah, we lost Mark.
Oh, we lost Mark. That's what I thought. Okay. I see they're coming back. I don't know if we can wrap this segment up with Michael Snyder and with
the whole house took a big power hit.
Oh, wow.
The whole house, Tony.
All right, fellas, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, it was really bad, wasn't it, Culture Blaster?
Yeah,
I blame you.
I don't know. It's not my fault, Kim.
I think it was the Iranians.
I don't know.
I blame you.
It was not. The bills are paid. We're on solar power, and with this backed up. I don't know. Anyway, let me finish my review.
Review.
My review of the reviews. Sorry, let me get them all back up here. I take notes while the Culture Blaster is speaking because
I do go on.
And it's
I think you were up to we were talking about
Reminders of Him.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, who is the woman who plays the lead?
Micah Monroe.
Micah Monroe. She's wonderful, Michael says. Tyreek Withers. He liked Tyreek Withers in this. Based on a book by Colleen Hoover. He liked Reminders of Him. Didn't love it, but he liked it.
For what it is, yeah.
Undertone is where we started. It's the podcasters and the paranormal podcast. They have audio tapes that they're listening to. He says the sound design, the camera work, the minimal filmmaking, it's very of the time now. It doesn't break any new ground, but he does like it. Undertone is available where?
It's available in theaters all across our great nation. And I want to point out one more note.
Yeah.
It does get heavily creepy. The camera work and the sound design do a lot of the heavy lifting here.
Wow.
But I don't want to downgrade Nina Curie, who is the focal point of the entire endeavor.
Wow. Well, Culture Blaster, you've left us with many options for this wonderful weekend. Have any final thoughts, Culture Blaster?
I'm excited to see my friends in the Fantastic Fellinis, who are playing tomorrow night in the Los Angeles area. And to be more specific, I a lot of art openings. KP Projects is
all right.
opening.
All right,
stuff,
Michael, settle down. We know you're a sophisticate. Tammy says you didn't announce Melania is now available on Prime.
I actually,
I blame you.
All right. Well.
You know those things where you can like prevent children from accessing aspects of the internet or cable television? I think they got to put something like that available for this abomination.
Well, I am impressed by Snyder. Is Snyder going to give us some of his picks for the Academy Awards? Asked Randy. I'm guessing he doesn't like the Academy Awards. Because Academy Awards is comparing art, which makes no sense. How can you do this? How can you award one thing better than another? Is that what your position is, Culture Blaster?
Apples and oranges, I like them both, and I don't think it's a fair comparison. Although, again, as many point out, you can put peanut butter on an apple, and you cannot put it on an orange.
How did the Academy Awards start? Oh, Culture Blaster, do you know the answer to that?
In a small garage.
But how did it start? Why did it start, Culture Blaster? Don't mock me.
They are attempting to publicize movies.
That's exactly right. They were doing it as a publicity
get the
effort.
People's butts into seats.
Yeah,
that's always the case.
That's exactly right.
Someone did this to spoil our Christmas.
No, it was actually to be a celebration of movies and to get people into the seats as the cultural. And then it's turned into this incredible event. It used to only be 20 minutes. Right. I mean, many, many years ago when it first started. And then it got, more and more attention as the networks dominated and it got network television coverage and there's the red carpet and it became big business.
And a self-congratulatory wank fest. Don't forget that.
But I have to say, it did put asses in the seats. That's why it did work, the Academy Awards. But it's utterly ridiculous to compare movies and to compare performances.
That
it just
said,
is.
People want a little forecasting. Here's a little something. Yeah. I expect that Sinners and One Battle After Another are going to win a number of awards.
Who wins Best Actor? The lead in Sinners or the lead in the Chalamet movie, the Mr. Bean or whatever it's called.
Mr. Bean.
What's it called?
What's the Chalamet movie?
The ping
called?
pong
Marty
movie.
Supreme.
Marty Supreme.
No, he does not win.
He doesn't win.
I think I
it'll
would
be.
tend
You
to
think
think
Michael B. Jordan?
I don't want to. I'm no prognosticator. I hate this stuff, but I will say that'll get some attention. And
will Michael B. Jordan win as Best Actor? I'll ask Mr. Predicto since you seem reluctant to make a prediction. We'll ask Mr. Predicto. Will Michael B. Jordan win Best Actor?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Sure. All right. That is a done deal.
I think Chalamet is too much of a, shall I use the phrase, a-hole to really win a lot of votes.
He's super talented, though. He's a talented a-hole.
He is.
Culture Blaster, you're great. Find Michael on this show on Fridays, but on the voicesf.org.
Yeah.
voicesf.org. He shares his written musings.
I'm elbow to elbow with our pal John, the Wednesday whirlwind.
John Rothman, yeah. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Culture Blaster.
See you next week, everybody.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we took a big hit to the mothership. I can't believe it.
Yeah. I thought it was me and my connection going out, so I didn't jump in right away because I thought, is there something wrong on my end? But
Well,
you know what
I'll have to go back and see it, and
I blame you.
I'm sure somehow it's my fault.
I need to close out this show with a minty, fresh feeling in my mouth.
People are commenting on how incredibly fresh my breath is, and I will tell you that most of the reason
I can smell it from here.
In addition to my natural sparkling breath, is from Zellman's Minty Mouth. You can jump on this incredible train. Zellman's is a mint on the outside, and then on the inside, it is a capsule filled with parsley seed oil that interacts with your the food in your gut. So we're talking about onions, garlic, whatever it might be, and it neutralizes those things that create bad odors. Powerful mint on the outside. I usually pop about 3 at a time. And then once the outer coating is gone, I just swallow the capsules. Again, no preservatives, no xylitol, no artificial sweeteners, but yes, all magic and sparkling breath. Get on it. Zellmans.com with our discount code MarkT, you'll get 15% off. Zellmans.com, MarkT at checkout for 15% off. Zellmans.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. On a Friday, we're a little late, but were there any
And now,
comments?
your
that I need
comments.
real quick, I'll wrap them up. I don't think I'll take a pair of floor chimes. I see that. I've got a pair of floor chimes, but I'm not rich. Yeah, they're Glenn B. I mean, he loves floor chimes. The president loves getting those floor chimes going. What did Trump do with the money deposited in his own account? Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting search for that money, and I'm guessing they're not really going to
Wherever
be
did
successful.
the money go? $63 million, and it came from companies, right?
Yeah.
And so is he allowed to keep it? Can he do that?
Is he allowed to do a lot of stuff he's doing? I don't.
It never stopped him before.
The is he allowed to has sort of left the building. So, and finally, thanks, Mark Thompson Show. Another one in the can. Good stuff, Michael Snyder. I still seek comedy. See you in the replays, chatters. If you're on this side of the bay Sunday, see you at the Kensington Farmers Market. That's
All right.
a shout out from Ricky O'Bear, who's in the San Francisco Bay Area. Love that Tony stepped up today. Special shout out to Tony, who was pressed into service because Albert couldn't make it.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, he really is special. Tony is our guy.
Hey, big news flash.
What's that?
7 in 10 Americans say Trump tariffs have cost them more money.
Yeah, no, the tariffs are incredibly unpopular, and the war is incredibly unpopular. This president is incredibly unpopular, but all those things, as we've spoken about, all those things might mean, desperate acts for a desperate guy, and we will see. I mean, I talked about the midterms, and even worse, you could even argue that this wars generally help presidents in polling, was an effort to, on one level, I mean, I'm not saying it was the main effort, but to raise his poll numbers. So Monday, there is more, and next week...
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Next week, we start at 2:30 Eastern time.
Bye-bye.
2:30 Eastern, beginning next week. All right.
11:30 Pacific.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.